Out of curiosity, before we get too far into the conversation, how many of you have never seen me present in person before? Show of hands. Oh, that would be like all of you. Okay, well, travel the world, think you're famous, show up here, not so much. Well, anyway, if you would be so kind, I have a small request. Pencil, pen, paper, something to take some notes with. I have an idea or two I'd like to pass along I think you might find to be valuable as I tell you a little bit about my story, my journey here to this particular stage on this momentous occasion as we unveil the beginning of 2012, talking about your future. What a fantastic place to be. I mean, what a fantastic place to be. Are you excited? Okay, 9 of you are excited. That's good. "28 years ago, a colleague of mine handed me an audio cassette tape. I was working corporate accounts for AT&T at the time, simple presentation. Some of you are curious about what you might say to someone. Has that ever crossed your mind? How do you talk to a friend, coworker, someone that you know? How do you introduce the concept of the business? Let me give you one of the all-time great presentations. This got me interested, got me to take a look, go to the opportunity presentation, and the rest, as they say, is history. Are you ready? Something to write with? Here it is. I'll give it to you a couple of times so you can write it down. Arm extended, audio cassette tape in hand. He said, "Here." You know what? There's more, but get that down first. And then after I took the tape from him, he said, "I'd like it back when you're finished." I'd write that down. "Here, I'd like it back when you're finished." Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but I now understand that to the degree that people know us, like us, and trust us, is to the same degree we don't need to say much. Have you found that to be the case? I mean, if you know someone, you like them, you trust them, you don't have to come up with some magical presentation. Something here. I sent you a little link to an email. Take a look. We'll talk in a little bit of time. That's about all you have to say. Now, if those things don't occur, we'll get to that a little bit later on in the presentation, talking to a stranger, coffee shop, someone sitting next to you on an airplane. There's different strategies for actually creating that rapport, but that was my introduction into the profession. Went to the presentation, liked what I heard. No one had said to me, if someone invites you, don't go. I hadn't had that conversation yet. So I liked what I saw, and I got involved. My wife and I were raising 2 young children at the time. We were about $400 a month short. Anybody here ever run out of money before they ran out a month? That was my world every single month, and I was looking for a way to kind of close that gap. So when I saw what was presented, I thought, I can do this. I can do this. And have you ever come to a presentation and said, I think maybe I can do this? That's how I felt. So I got involved. And then I realized I had no idea what to do. But luckily, someone came along to teach me. Eventually, we had a little bit of a car payment taken care of, and it was the mortgage payment. 13th month, we were paying for the car and the house. Let me ask you something. If we could fast forward one more year, 2013, say January, February 2013, and you were earning enough income from your isogenics business to cover your car and your home, would this have been a well-invested hour? What do you think? Well, then I'd suggest you take a note or two. Because here's what happened from that point forward. After that started to happen, I got this delusional idea. I thought to myself, there's no training material available. I got tired of saying the same things over and over and over again. Back in the day when I got involved 28 years ago, you couldn't walk outside walls like these and see sound concepts with everything you could possibly imagine. They just didn't exist, hadn't been invented yet. Technology's come a long way in 28 years. I was explaining to my grandson, he's now 6 years old, I said, you know, Eli, when Papa was younger and Papa and Grandma were married and the telephone rang, we had to walk over to the wall and answer the phone. Eli looks up at me and says, "Why, Papa, why?" And then he went back to playing Angry Birds on his mom's phone. Yeah. I mean, it was just different. Lots of things have changed. So here we were, involved in the business, excited about it, and I thought, I'm going to write a book. I'll write the very first book on network marketing, put it into bookstores, libraries. Someone told me Amway had over 1 million people. I thought I'll sell each of them one book. That would be a good idea, and then I'll retire. So I wrote the book. It went into the bookstores and the libraries, but the Amway people didn't come, and so I had to go out and start marketing the books. And a man named John Milton Fogg picked that book up and enjoyed reading it. Now, I wouldn't expect you to know, but was the editor-in-chief of Upline Journal. Upline back in the day served as the Wall Street Journal, if you will, to the network marketing profession. And he was looking for someone to take over for him as the editor-in-chief. I got the call. For the next 3.5 years, my life was literally transformed as I had the esteemed honor of sitting down with some of the best and brightest our profession had at that time. Imagine having conversations with Jimmy Smith and Jay Bennett. Imagine talking to Lisa DeMayo's, and to the Lynn Hagedorns. Imagine talking to Jim and Kathy Coover. Imagine if you could sit down with each and every one of these people for about an hour, 2 hours, and just glean from them what they knew, looking for content for that magazine. And after a period of time, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 conversations, people making $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a month low side, and high side, some of the stories were incredible, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600,000 a month and more. A pattern began to emerge. And one evening, I still remember sitting in my home, Lake Forest Park, Washington, a little outside Seattle, just about maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was editing this article of a story I had done, this guy making $200,000, $300,000 a month and just not that bright. And I was trying to figure out if this sentence should end at a period, colon, semicolon, or being deleted altogether. Was it really going to matter in the story? And I just thought to myself, what am I doing? How is this man, not that bright, making all of this money? And then I remembered, he had told me the same thing all these other people had told me. Bright, not that bright, educated, not that educated, tall, thin, ugly, beautiful. They were all telling me about the same thing. There was this little philosophy. And I had that epiphany. Now, I don't know if Napoleon Hill ever came to that auspicious moment in time when he was sitting with Andrew Carnegie. But I can probably assure you that somewhere along those interviews that he went on during that 20-year trek, when he talked to the Rockefellers and the Wrigleys, when he had the privilege of sitting down and speaking with the great minds like Edison and Ford, and then he put together that masterpiece we know today as Think and Grow Rich, I would imagine that he too recognized these individuals only have a handful of things in common. Now, if you've read Think and Grow Rich, and I think most of you probably have, and if not, that's something you may want to add to your library. After all, back in the generation, it's what the 500 wealthiest people had in common, 13 characteristics, just 13. I found that these amazing leaders were doing 5 things every time. Just like clockwork, you could just take it to the bank. Every person, they might not have used the same words, same phraseology and whatnot, but every single time I heard the same 5 things. So I was so excited, I wanted to find out if this would work. So I went to John and I said, I've got this idea. I want to go back into the field as a distributor and I want to see if this little philosophy will work. Do you realize what we'll have here if it does? John was very much opposed to the idea. Conflict of interest, editor, working for a company, what are we going to do? We're serving the industry. But I was passionate about my decision, and so we reached an agreement. Here's what we agreed. I could step down as the editor-in-chief and take on a role as senior editor to continue writing. You say, why would you want to do that? Well, my second book through Upline, Business is Booming, it sold over 1 million copies in its first 6 months. I got kind of accustomed to the success and the reach of the magazine. And I didn't really want to walk away all that quickly, especially, at the very beginning of a company. It takes a little bit of time before you start to get a little bit of traction. At least it did for me. So we agreed I would step down, take on a role as senior editor, and I could get back into the profession as long as I agreed to 4 points. Here they are. Make a note of them because this is how I built my entire career. Point number 1, I would not speak with anyone that I knew. Now, how about you? How would you feel if you got involved in isogenics? They say, good, good, good. Now that you're here, rule number 1, you can't talk to anyone that you know. Excited? Some of you say, I don't like most of those people. I'm okay with that. Okay. Rule number 2, you can't speak with anyone who knows you. See, I knew a lot of people, but there were over 1 million people that had acquired my second book. Lots of people knew me that I had never met. So I didn't talk to people that I knew, and I didn't talk to anyone who knew me. Rule number 3, no advertising. You go back and take a look. There's no advertisements that says editor-in-chief joins XYZ company, come join him, be part of the largest, most exciting. None of that. And rule number 4, If I met someone that I did not know, that did not know me, that I did not acquire through advertising, the first thing I had to uncover or determine, were they currently involved? And if they were already in network marketing, the bet was off. I had to look for people who were looking but weren't involved. And I thought to myself, well, that's really unfair. How am I going to do that? I'd never heard how to do that. But I took on the challenge. And I've got to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, one conversation at a time, one presentation at a time, one association at a time, and over a 10-year period, I built one of the largest businesses in our profession. I retired from that 8 years ago to take the next facet of my career, which is taking this philosophy, what I had learned, and sharing it with anyone who would invite me out. My wife and I took a look at the year, carved it up, 365 days. I kept 65 for myself, 300 days for our family. And that became our life for the next 8 years. 65 days a year, I would get on a plane and fly to Europe, fly to Asia, fly somewhere, anywhere they would have me. And I would stand on a stage, 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000, whatever the audience would be, and I would give them what I'm going to give you today. This little philosophy, these 5 points that can make all the difference in your business if properly understood and consistently applied. And you know what's interesting, though? As this was unfolding, our children, who were very young when I got involved, but now all these years had passed, had gotten married and had children of their own. Now we have a son, 32, married, little 6-year-old boy, he and his wife. We have a daughter, 30. Her and her husband have a little 6-year-old and a little 3-year-old. So my wife and I, she's with me today, 34 years we've been together, these 2 kids, and we've got 3 grandchildren. And our life is fundamentally different now than it was when I got involved. Now we take a look at our children. We'd like to go off to Europe. They can't come with us. They have to work. They've got the kids. They've got these things. We'd like to go do this. What do you do when your children have a vehicle that isn't performing well? How do you help them? Do you give them a little bit of money to fix the car? Or do you just recognize, I never liked that car anyway. Let's just go get another car. Is getting them another car helping them or hurting them? Well, they'll tell you, hey, I don't mind the car. Let's go shopping. Back of my mind, last 8 years, I've been looking, without telling anyone, for a company we could put our family in. Every client that would bring me in, every private meeting, every boardroom, I would think, is this the one? Could this be the one? After a few meetings, a few conversations, you recognize this is just like all the other companies out there. And instead of telling people what they could do to build their business, I so wanted to stand on that platform and tell them, you guys need to get out. The problem was, go where? That was the snag. Now, as this is happening, there's an overlaying piece to the story. Warren Lance shows up at one of my seminars 7 years ago as a student. For 3 days, we hang out together, and if you've ever been around Warren as a prospect, you're going to get to know Warren. So Warren figures out very quickly that we live in Seattle and we like coffee, and living in Seattle and coffee is like living here and breathing. So he would call every once in a while, every 3, 4, 5 months, he's coming down to Seattle. Would you like to get together for coffee? Sure. So he would come down, we'd get together for coffee, and he would tell me about this great company. Hey, I'm making about $1,000 a month, and I would pat him on the back and say, that's nice, good for you. One day he brought me a 9-day cleanse, and he said, you need to detoxify. And I thought to myself, I don't think so. I don't know what you people do, but I'm wondering now if your wife shaves her armpits. You know, it was one of those things where I'm telling you, I didn't understand. When people start talking about detoxification, I'm thinking people are a little weird. What's going on? What's going on? You know, he's from some part of Canada. I don't know what they're doing up there. He seemed nice enough, but I'd never met his wife. Where are you going, Warren? I'm going out in the bush. I'm going to shoot something. Okay. Anyway. But then one day, he booked me as a speaker. And he did something quite clever, actually. He said, would you be willing to open on Friday and close on Sunday? And I thought to myself in my little delusional mind, well, of course I would. Who else to open on a Friday and close on a Sunday? I would be honored. And then he said, but would you be willing to sit in the audience so that you could really take it all in? You know, just so that you could really understand the culture and the language, and you do a nice little job. Tie it up in a pretty little bow for us on Sunday when it's over. And I thought, that's a brilliant idea. Learn everything about it. Pick up a little of the vernacular. Tie it up in a little bow. I can do that. Jay was there. I got to hear him. I thought, he's pretty good. I got to learn about the culture. People started walking up and talking to me. And it was almost as if I could look at their body and tell how long they've been around. You'd meet someone and you'd say, how long have you been doing this? 5, 6 years. You think, okay. Someone else, and you're probably new, aren't you? Yes. Okay. And I got to thinking to myself, this is very interesting. Well, Warren, I think he kind of sensed that, and he said, so we need to go to Phoenix. Really? Yes, we need to go to Phoenix. He set up a little presentation, so we got on a plane, flew down, and I've got to tell you, the Cougars were so gracious. Got to meet Eric, got to meet Jim, Kathy, sat down with Kevin Adams, gracious enough to take me to lunch, met with so many of the people at the corporate office. Rick Despain. I covered an article for Rick Despain and his former company, technology piece of Upline, 16, 17 years ago, when their company had come up with something that was really quite clever. We didn't know if it would catch on, but we decided to cover it for Upline. It was called a website. I wrote that article. There were links which we had to explain, and you could search for things on the website. Rick popped around the corner in Travis's office and looked at me, and I looked at him. It's like, you're here? Yes. It was like we had found each other again. And I've got to tell you something. I have been around this profession now 28 years. I've traveled the world. I've had the unique privilege of meeting some of the best and brightest that our profession has ever offered, and some of the most interesting people along my journey. And I've got to tell you something. I have never been as impressed as I am right now. Don't thank me, thank the Cougars. Thank John Anderson. Thank the staff. Thank the people that are here. Thank this incredible group of people that have assembled. Thank yourselves. Thank the millionaires. Thank the people that have come before me. All we had to do was walk in. And so now when you see Lisa DeMayo and Lynn Hagedorn, you see Rochelle Nichols, you see these people coming and winning, you're thinking, who are all of these people? They're friends of mine. We decided to come because we thought we were looking for a nice place to hang out, and this has been a very good home. So thank you for welcoming us with open arms. It is indeed an honor to be here. An honor. And what started as an idea for our children has now kind of evolved into the fact that I think, hey, I kind of want to do this myself. So I got to kind of dust off some of the skills and get back to it. And I was thinking, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And then I thought, I've got these CDs that I recorded. Maybe I should listen to them again. I pulled this stuff out and I started listening, and I thought, this is good. I should take notes. And then I thought, no, I don't need notes. I have it in my head. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to share this little philosophy that kind of got us all the way to this point. Would that be okay? All right, here we go. In the limited amount of time we have, and that's always the issue. I found, by the way, it takes about 18 hours for me to teach you what I've learned. About 18 hours. I'm going to give you the overview, and then we're going to talk about some of the subcomponents, but the rest you're going to need to do at your own pace at some point in the future. Here's what these people had in common. Here's what allowed me to build the profession that I did. Here's what allowed me to teach these things around the world, and here's what caused me to be here. Step number one, we all have done it. Most of you have too. And by the way, when I give these to you, I'm sure some of you, as you hear these 5 little points, you're going to be thinking to yourself, well, that makes sense. I've heard that before. Why is he telling me something I've heard before? Because everyone does this. The things I'm going to tell you are what all of these successful people do. They may not articulate them this way, but it's what they all do. Does that make sense? Yes. Number one, write it down, please. Decide. Decide. You've got to decide what it is that you actually want. Every single person that I spoke to knew exactly where they were, and more importantly, they knew where they were going. They had made a decision. What's yours? But here's something fascinating about these conversations that we sometimes don't really understand until we start asking another series of questions. I refer to these little subtle points, by the way, as the egg. You all know about the incredible edible egg, do you not? Have you ever wondered why in every recipe known to mankind, no one ever put an asterisk next to the egg, and at the bottom of the recipe said, remove from shell first? Have you ever wondered? It says, add in 2 eggs. It'll tell you to preheat the oven. It'll tell you to grease the pan, as if you didn't know to do that. It'll tell you to put a toothpick in the center and pull it out and see if it's done. It'll give you detailed instructions on almost every facet of making this particular meal, but when it comes to the eggs, it just says put the eggs in. Now, if you don't know you're supposed to take them out of the shell first, the pancakes are crunchy. Someone said, I like the pancakes, but why are they crunchy? I have no idea. It said add in 2 eggs. I added in 2 eggs and flour and milk, mixed it all up. They're crunchy. You have to take them out of the shell first. It didn't say that. So someone says decide, that's like a recipe that gives you the components. But if you don't explain further about the egg, we have a problem. Let me explain. We decide in 90-day blocks of time. 90-day blocks of time. Some people do it in a way that seems logical, and you even hear classes taught on this. They say, look 20 years into the future and picture your life as you'd like it to be. Get that image, that vision, cut it in half, 10-year goal, cut that in half, your 5-year goal. Divide that by 5-year, 1-year goal. Divide that by 12-year monthly goal. Divide that by 4-year weekly goal. Divide that by 7-year daily goal. Divide that by 8-year hourly goal. Live every hour of every day of every week of every month of every year, and in 20 years you'll get there. And you're writing that stuff down. Where do you find those people that have taken those classes in about 2 weeks? They're right back where they are, because we just can't project that far into the future. You ask someone to decide where they want to be in 20 years, people can't even decide what they want for lunch. You go to lunch, they put a menu and someone, oh, I don't know, let's see. Let's see. You're going to eat 3 times today, 21 times this week. You're going to eat 50,000 times by the time you're my age. 50,000, this is one of 50,000 meals. It's lunch, pick something. Can you give us a minute? Seriously, you need a minute? Pick something. Ask for a suggestion. It's lunch. And we say, so what would you like to do in isogenics? They don't know what they want to do. So the egg, 90-day blocks of time, title, and income. That's it. That's all we teach. 90-day blocks of time, title, and income. All of January, all of February, all of March. April 1st, where do you want to be? Title and income. You set that as your plan, your decision, and you begin moving forward from there. You can accomplish just about anything in 90 days. And by the way, I didn't come up with this 90-day plan. I'm not that bright. God started us all off with the seasons. We've got 3 months of winter, cold, dreary, damp, cold. Did I say cold? Cold. But then we move into spring. It's nice, but a little wet. Flowers come out, not so beautiful. But then we've got summer, and then fall, and the seasons repeat. And it's not just the seasons. You go to university, we have semesters and 90-day blocks of time. We have all kinds of things. The government wants our taxes every quarter, every 90 days. I mean, you see this pattern repeated everywhere. We can do just about anything in 90-day blocks of time. You can live in Canada in the winter if it's only 90 days. You can live in Phoenix in the summer if it's only 90 days. But if it's 175 degrees for 6 months, people think I gotta go north, right? Woman expecting that first child, first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, morning sickness every single morning, first trimester, it's no problem. Mothers get through it. Eventually, second trimester, feeling better, third, they feel great. They had that child. Eventually, after holding that child for a period of time, they think, let's do that again. But you show me a mother that had morning sickness every day for 9 months, I'll show you the mother of an only child. I mean, I'm telling you, it's just too long. They're not doing that anymore. Yeah, we got one of them right there. Sorry, you don't get a brother. Deal with it. Saving the money for therapy for later. We can do just about anything. So that's all I went down. Point number 1, decide. 90-day blocks of time. What do you want to be? Title and income. Now, when you hit that 90-day mark, you either got it or you didn't. It doesn't matter. It's food. Order something. If you don't like it, you get to eat again in a few hours. So 90 days later, it's April 1st. You go, okay, all of April, all of May, all of June, July 1st. Where do I want to be? Title and income. July 1st, July, August, September, October 1st. Where do I want to be? Title and income. That's all we do. That's the decision. That's it. Point number 1, decide. I hope before today is over, you've decided out 90 days where you wanted to be, title and income. And I hope you continue repeating that cycle as long as you choose to be in this company, which I hope is for an extraordinarily long period of time. Title and income. Point number 2. Please write this down exactly as I give it to you, and then I will explain. Eventually, uncover your why. Eventually, uncover your why. We used to think we'll ask them for their why up front. Nothing wrong with that. Some people know instantly. You come to a big seminar, mother standing up on stage, unbelievable, touching story, rags to riches, and she's being interviewed. What drove you to greatness? And as she begins, tears streaming down her face to tell the story, they put the pictures of her children on the large screen. And she said, these children, tears coming down her face, these are my reasons why. And you think, okay. And then you go home and you look at your kids. And you've got nothing. And you think, I don't know what to do now. What do I do? It's hard to borrow someone else's why. It's just really hard to borrow it. Some people do this for their children so that they can spend more time together. And some people do this so they don't have to. I mean, it's just, I don't know your kids. Pilot income, eventually your what? No one is looking for stacks of little green pieces of paper with deceased presidents' faces on them as a trophy. But let me assure you, until you uncover your why, go for the money. It's the ultimate shortcut. People say to you, why are you involved in Isogenics? To make $500 a month. Why are you involved in Isogenics? To retire my spouse. Why are you involved in Isogenics? I want a career change. Why are you involved in Isogenics? To prevent the foreclosure on our home. Why are you involved in Isogenics? To pay these lousy bills. Now, some of you might think, that's a terrible idea. Pay these lousy bills? Can't you think bigger than that? Oh, yes, there's a brilliant strategy. Tell someone with a really small dream, your dream is too small. You're pitiful. You should think bigger like me. They won't like you. It won't go well. And you think, how come I don't have retention? Maybe if I focus on my basket, it would be better. No, it's your personality. You need to work on you, not the basket. Charles Barkley said it best. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. You'll uncover your why. I promise you. Might be as the song says on some idle Tuesday, 4 p.m., you're doing nothing, and all of a sudden, bam, it pops into your head. This is why I'm here. But until then, go for the money. I asked Lisa DeMille, Lynn Hagedorn, why are you in this horse race? The money. We're going shopping. If I'd have said, what's the money for? This is probably the best I would have gotten. Jimmy Choo. There was a time I didn't know what that meant. Unfortunately, now I do. Anyway. My wife took me to Las Vegas. We went to a little place. It was called Jimmy Choo. She said, well, check the sale. She walked me to the back. They have it on sale. Did you know that? There's some shoes that don't sell. They were on sale. We should get these for our daughter. They're on sale. I said, how much are they? They're only $300 each. On sale. Our daughter does not need $300 each shoes. Our daughter is now in Isogenics. If she wants shoes, she can write it down and go for it. I'm a guy. I have a black pair and I have a brown pair. And when these go bad, I'll go back to Nordstrom and say, I had these for a long time. Do you have a pair just like them? Number one, decide. Number two, eventually figure out why. Yes, I know if your why is strong enough, you'll learn or figure out or uncover your how. I get that. You'll move mountains if you know why. But if you really want to understand why it's so difficult to uncover a person's why in the very beginning, take them to lunch. Hand them a menu with 200 items and just sit there. And then you begin to recognize, wow, this is harder than I thought. Where do you begin? Hey, I've got an idea. Let's begin with the money. You know, 500,000, 3,000, 30 days, see if you can do that one, and then we'll move on from there. And then we'll decide what the money is for. Does that make sense? Point number 3. Every person, without exception, had a written, notice the word, written game plan. They all decided what they want. They knew 90-day blocks of time, title and income, that's all we taught. And the why, they figured it out over time. We'd help them with it. We'd coach them through it. Great stuff on the website under leadership, uncovering your why. Brilliant material, certainly will help them. But it's almost like being at the, at a restaurant where eventually you just have to go, okay. But that written game plan, that's where we separate the people that succeed from the people that continue to challenge or experience challenges. The written game plan. Now, remember earlier I mentioned the egg? You come to a lot of seminars, they say, you need a written game plan. People go, okay, great. Written game plan. I got it. I have it down. I know it's point number 3, written game plan. After why and decide. And then you get home and you look at it. Written game plan. And you think, okay, I need to write a game plan. And then you realize, I don't know what that means. And so you don't do anything. This problem happens all the time. Now, everyone was at that seminar and you saw them. They all wrote it down, written game plan. And you think, I must be the only one that doesn't know what that means, so I'm not going to say anything to anyone. I'll just try to wing this business and see what happens. Let me give you some very clear direction on the game plan. Now, by the way, I'm old. So if this sounds a little old, go get the largest blank desk calendar you can find. I know, to you that seems really strange. But why? I have an $800 thing that I'm holding in my hand and I can push a lot of buttons and it's really pretty. Why would I do that? Because I don't have one of those. I'm old. I have a calendar on my desk and a pen. But if you want to use that, that's okay. But because I'm telling the story, calendar, paper, staples, about $5. On the left-hand margin, make a list of the things that matter in your world. Here's what I found. Our life is very much like this, is it not? The spiritual part of your life, the physical part of your life, the financial part of your life, the fun part of your life, the social part of your life, the cultural part of your life, the business part of your life, the job part of your life. It all has to go together like this. And so if we don't have this going together, it's not fun, it's not interesting, we won't stick with it. We won't do it. It'll be like the mother throwing up every day for 9 months. We'll quit too soon. We won't want to do that again. So I've got this little list, this little hierarchical list that's important to me. You'll uncover over time what's important to you. My list is the spiritual things first, the family second, financial part third, physical part, fun part. We've got this little list. And so we sit down every month, big calendar there, and we put the most important things on the calendar first. Write them down. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right now. Why would I do that? You know what most people put on their calendar, especially the one they've got on the refrigerator? You'll see this big calendar there. Boom. And right about the middle of the month at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, it'll say, dentist. Where's the rest of the month? So you sit down with them. Now, I worked with a lady years ago, and she had a very interesting way of spinning this. She said, God first, family second, career third, your business fourth. And I thought, interesting strategy. Now, if we took that strategy, here's what it would look like. You've got your large desk calendar. You'd say, do I worship? And if so, when and where? And you'd write it down. Now, most of you won't do that. You know why? Because you know when you go and you know where you go. So here's part of the illustration that will help you immensely. Imagine if I or your coaching mentor were there with you and said, look, you know your life obviously way better than I know your life. So for my benefit, would you get it out of your head and get it down on paper so that I can see it? So if that's important to you, would you write it down so I know what you're committing to do? And so that would get written down. And then we move on. God first, family second. Tell me about your family. Write it down. And now the women. I coach so many women. You know, the Lisas and the Lyns and the Rochelles, and so many of these wonderful people have come into my life. And we've sat down, and you start putting down these little things. And you know what the women tend to do, especially the ones that are married with kids? When you say family, what do they think of? Their kids. So they'd write down all the activities of the kids, and they'd write down everything else. You know who they never put on their calendar? Themselves. You've got to change that. I mean, I don't know, manicure or pedicure or going for a massage. I like doing that. I don't know what you want on your calendar, but you write something down that's important to you. Have it down for you, the things that matter to you. But oftentimes I'd work with women, especially couples, and there wouldn't be anything there for the spouse, nothing. And we would move on to the next point. I said, well, wait, hold on for a second. Do you need anything else on family? They said, no, we've got family down. I said, you ever get your kids down? A little bit for you. I finally talked you into doing something for you, but you're married, right? Yeah. What, him? Yeah. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, imagine he comes in and looks at the calendar. Everybody's there except him. How is he going to feel about your new venture? Oh, he's not very happy. Wow, I wonder why. Think about it. You want to get your spouse excited about your business if he's not so much on the same page with you yet? Go home and say, I went to a seminar, and I have a little homework assignment. I need your help. We need to go shopping, and you need to tell me what is the largest plasma television we can fit in the family room, and something about a surround sound that would go with it. Can you come help me pick that out, because I want it to be the first family goal for our income? Now, do you think your husband will say what to you? You're nuts, or let's go. Get him involved, put it down. But we'd have the family down, have that information down, and then you move on to the business. But when you've got those important things down, you know what you will find all throughout that month? These huge, gaping holes. And we fill those holes with 3 fundamentals. Please take a subnote under point number 3. Once we have the important things down first, we fill it with our business plan. Prospecting, presenting, and duplicating. That's all we do. We find people to talk to. We talk to the people we find. We teach those who are interested how to get involved. What does that mean? How to find people to talk to, how to talk to the people they find, and how to teach those people how to get involved, which is finding people to talk to. That's all we do. It's just repetition, repetition, repetition. Mastering the mundane. We just do it again and again and again. It's like brushing your teeth, combing your hair, taking a shower. You just don't wake up one day and say, I've done that for a while, I'm done. It's not the way it works. You keep doing those things. Here's the snag. You give the average person the little task of prospecting. You say, well, how many people do I need to prospect? You need at least 2 new people a day, a minimum of 4 days a week. That's how you can tell if you're on pace. Make a note of that. At least 2 new people a day, a minimum of 4 days a week. Do the math with me for a moment. Look at the numbers. 2 new people a day, 4 days a week is 8 people in a week. 8 people in a week is 32 people in a month. 32 people in a month is 384 people in a year. Now, I've been walking around here for 2.5 days. There's not a person in this room that I've met yet that is so daft they couldn't figure out a way to grow their business talking to 384 people over the next 12 months. I mean, you couldn't be that bad. You could grab a bottle of Ionic Supreme and just stand outside a store and just hold your arm out for a while. Someone would stop you and go, what are you doing? You go, you taste this. Why? Here. Most of us don't talk to enough people. Most of us don't talk to any people. Now, I get into all this information on the CDs. Fear is the biggest reason. We just don't do it because of fear. And there's very good reasons. I mean, after all, if I were a father talking to you as son or daughter, how many of these sentences could you finish out loud? If I said to you, children should be seen and not, don't speak unless you're, and whatever you do, don't talk to. Oh, brilliant. I'd love to have all of you in my business. You won't talk to anybody unless they talk to you, and if they're a stranger, no way. Now, intellectually, we know that's silly. We've grown up. And so I say, go talk to some people, talk to a couple of people. And so you go out there and you try to talk to a couple of people, and what happens? Nothing. Stomach starts to turn, palms get sweaty. You know why? Because you know in the deep subconscious regions of your brain, these people are going to do horrible things to you, and then they're going to kill you. That's what's going to happen. And you don't want that, so you just say, I'm not talking to those people, no way. And after that occurs 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you think this is not a good idea. In fact, you know what, now that I think about it, probably not the products anyway. I probably would have lost that weight. No problem. Network marketing? No. And we quit. And we see this churn, and it's because we never took the time to educate. So, we've got to decide what we want. We've got to understand why over time. We need a little plan, but we've got to have that plan down in writing. You know you have a good plan when you wake up tomorrow, you look at the date, and it tells you what to do. If you follow the plan on your calendar, and when your head hits the pillow in the end of the evening, you think back as you're starting to drift off into that wonderful, peaceful thing we call sleep, you think, wow, what an extraordinary day. What an extraordinary day. I'm so excited about tomorrow, because tomorrow I've got it all planned out. Now, if you wake up in the morning and you look at your calendar, there's nothing there, I would suggest you take the rest of the day off and plan that day, and the rest of the week and month and perhaps quarter. Point number 4. We don't do this very well anymore. Point number 4 is commitment. Commitment. Every leader I spoke with, the reason I was able to go for 10 years without walking away, the reason I left after having accomplished and achieved everything that was possible for me, is commitment. We don't have to say yes to everything. No one is asking you to. But if you give your word, keep it. Here's what the definition of commitment is. Please make a note of it. I would ask that you learn this phrase, repeat it again and again and again until it becomes a part of the very fabric of who you are. Commitment is doing the thing you said you would do long after the feeling you set it in had passed. That's commitment. Somebody comes out here and says, "Are you with me?" And you go, "Yes." 4 days later, "Where are you?" "We don't know." Doing the thing you said you would do long after the feeling you set it in had passed. That's commitment. My commitment to my family when I came on board, I work in 5-year blocks. I said, let's see what happens for the next 5 years. My goal, Isagenix, the next 5 years, 100 million cumulative sales in the team. I thought that was an okay goal. Then somebody walked out the other day and said, we've done 500 million. And I thought, oh, well, okay, 100 million still okay. That's the goal. Can we accomplish 100 million as a team over the next 5 years? Let's see. That's the goal. And after that period of time, we'll find out what happens. Work your business, commit. Decide what you want, understand why over time, have a written plan, keep your priorities straight, focus on the prospecting, the presenting, and the duplicating, and if you don't know how, move to point number 5. Keep your word, move to point number 5. What's point number 5? Personal development. Getting better while you're taking action. Some people think they want to get better first. Not a good idea. Universities teach that. That's the whole idea. Take 4 years, go here. Do nothing until you finish. Then try to go out and do something. Network marketing is not that same business model. Network marketing is not come in here, go to ICU, go to NYKO, go to Celebration, go to all these Super Saturdays, read everything, spend all this time, invest all this money, 4 years, focusing, and then say, now that I've got it, let's go out. That's not the business model here. Maybe out there, not here. Here, the business model is take action and get better. But look for the holes in your life and in your personality, in your business, in the skill sets that are not working for you, and find a way to fill them over time. For years, I've been teaching students the 3 fundamentals of prospecting, presenting, and duplicating. And of those 3, prospecting is still the biggest challenge we have. If Isagenix could find a unique way to guarantee you 2 sit-down, face-to-face presentations at the Starbucks closest to your house 4 days a week, and all you had to do is show up, and Mary would sit down and say, I'm Mary, I'm very interested. Are you the person that's going to be explaining the business to me? And you said yes, and you got to tell that story 2 times a day, 4 days a week. How many of you think you could become successful? Okay, like 50 of you. Good. So the bigger question is then, why don't we create that? And the simple answer is we don't know how. Let me give you a little insight, the egg, on personal development. Here's the formula. Read for 30 minutes every day. 30 minutes every day. Go get How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Go pick up Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Go grab The Richest Man in Babylon by Clayson. Go pick up The Magic of Believing by Bristol. Go acquire perhaps a book I've written. I wrote Future Choice, still a fantastic book. Sound Concepts has 2 of my books, The Little Fifth Principle and Learning the Business One Story at a Time. I love the books. When I decided to get back anchored in isogenics, the very first thing I did was reread my own material, and I thought, wow. 30 minutes every day. Now, egg, pay attention. Here's the problem. You know what most people do? They read one book and then they go read another. Then they read that book and they read another. Then they read that book and they read another. Then they read that book and they read a... And then you ask them, hey, did you read? And they go, yes, I read. What'd you think? Fabulous book. What do you remember? Remember? Dale Carnegie said 6 things we need to do to get people to instantly know us, like us, and trust us. If you've read How to Influence People, do you know the 6 things? Napoleon Hill, 13 things. 500 wealthiest people. Do you know the 13? Managing Your Money. Richest Man of Babylon. Great little book. Listen. 7 things. 7. You can remember 7. But do you know the 7? Fifth principle, 5. Read and then reread. Read and then reread. Read and then reread. It's repetition, repetition, repetition. Read it until. When you hit that last page, go to the beginning. When you hit that last page, go to the beginning. When you hit that last page, go to the beginning. Do it until. When you know that the fifth principle is get them connected, or get connected, stay connected, learn your core product line, learn how you're paid, learn all the ways to build a business, get better, take action. When you know those principles, go on to the next book. Does that make sense? Rule number 2, turn your automobile into a rolling university. The CDs are so valuable. You know what most people have mastered by the 40th year of their life in America? The lyrics to over 4,000 songs. If I had a little boombox up here and turned on the Beatles tunes, before the words had shown up, your mind would relocate every word. Why? Repetition, repetition, repetition. When I was building my business, I had a little boombox sat on the toilet in the bathroom. I would walk in there getting ready for the day. I found out I got ready every day. I would turn it on like the radio and listen all the time, all the time, all the time. Got in the shower, got out, got ready, turned it off. Every day, every day, every day. Over time, that material, repetition, 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 I started to remember, and it became a part of the fabric of who I was. Don't go on to the second CD until you've mastered the first. Don't go on to the second set of CDs until you've mastered the first. Here's the key phrase, worthy of recording, spend more time on less material. Really understand it before you move on. Now, there's a flyer that's been passed out there that has some CDs that I put together. Let me make a suggestion to some of you who are interested. There's 18 hours of the fundamentals. Your first month in the business, we call 28 days to your new future. Mastering the fundamentals, where we cover prospecting, presenting, and duplicating. I heard it mentioned many times throughout the seminar about leadership. 4 hours on how to find and develop leaders within your team. If you'd like to have people like Lisa DeMeo, if you'd like to have individuals like Lynn Hagedorn, if you'd like to be able to acquire people into your life like those individuals, Jerry and Rochelle Nichols, and on it goes. If you want those people part of your team, learn how to attract and train leaders. Attitude, thinking your way to success. 3 hours on the mind and how to make yours absolutely magnificent, focused on what's important for you. There's 18 hours of material that I've taken the last 28 years to put together. If it would benefit you, fill that form out. They're going to come by to pick them up or turn them into any person in a green shirt. Make sure, though, you make a selection between the physical CDs or the MP3 download files. If you don't choose, we're going to send you the CDs. So just keep that in mind. Fill it out and we'll take care of it, and we can go to work on your future. Listen, it's been for me an extraordinary journey over the last 28 years. From that very first audio tape being put into my hand, first conversation, first presentation, building the business, retiring, traveling the world, and now ending up here feeling like I'm doing it all over again. But now with the knowledge and the skills and hopefully a little bit of the wisdom that's been gleaned along the way, we're just able to do it more rapidly. We're able to do it without making the same mistakes. We're able to do it in such a way that it's more permanent. And you know what? We're able to do it in such a way, I believe, that it's even more fun. So if you'd like to experience that too, then learn these 5 points. Understand the magnificence of the right decision made in the right way. 90-day blocks of time. Uncovering your why and the power of that, but give yourself time to really figure out what drives you. Have a plan every month and work on it. Refine it, hone it, practice it, but always know the night before your head hits the pillow what your plans are for the following day. Prospect, present, and duplicate. Master those fundamentals. Commit. Remember that doing the thing you said you would do long after the feeling you said it in had passed is the single most important attribute you can pass along to your entire team. That your word means something. And get better. Work on yourself, work on your business, work on the things that are not allowing you to move forward in the speed that you want, and I promise you, you can build an incredible business.